I've just finished filming this video and I came out of it feeling really frustrated because there was something off about the writing and I was struggling to nail down exactly what was off, but I've had some bao buns now and I think I've got it. The writers in this particular segment were really obvious. You typically want your motifs and themes and messages to be very subtle, basically invisible until you get to the end and you go back and think about what you just consumed. But here these things are so obvious that it feels like the writers are standing there next to the screen saying, aha, and notice this thing, and do you hear this message? Here it is again, just in case you didn't get it the last time. It's very heavy-handed, and that breaks the immersion because you're suddenly thinking about the writing and the motifs and the themes and the messages instead of just going along with the story. Heavy-handedness in writing never feels good. Hey, this is the Sword and the Pen Reflections. It is my casual alternative to that channel. If you're here, you know the deal. This is part 5 of my critique of The Last of Us Game 2. If you want to see part 4, it is up there, also down in the description. We left off in the same exact place where the HBO series ended, where we have Ellie being held up by Abby in the theater, and Tommy's on the ground, Jesse's dead, Dina is sleeping. Anyway, I have no idea what happens in this story beyond this point. I've never played the game, I have no frame of reference like the show, so I'm just going to be giving my response to what we see play out in Abby's story going forward. And then when we get to the end of it, I want to address a couple of things that people have been mentioning in the comments over and over again that I've been taking issue with in my videos. So the first one is the moral conundrum in Game 1, because a lot of folks have been telling me that we're supposed to be looking at what Joel did as the wrong decision, and I think that's worthy of a big discussion because it affects everything that happens in Game 2, or at least what seems to be the focus in Game 2, which is Abby justified in killing Joel? And then, of course, is Ellie justified in killing Abby for killing Joel, who killed her dad? Oh my gosh. I also want to do a video on Ellie and her decision to go to the aquarium instead of going after Tommy, and how I felt that this moment was unbelievable in the character's progression. Lots of folks sent me information that was missing from the version of the game that I am watching, which is not the full gameplay. It has been condensed down to about 8 or 9 hours. I've been assured that most of the essential stuff is still in this version, but there are things that folks are telling me, okay, wait, you missed this key piece of information. You need to go and find the full-length version. So I did, and I looked for the things that people told me specifically to go and check out. And my theory on what's wrong with the way that this story is written, I don't think it's been changed by any of that, but I don't want to go into that now. I want to give that its own video, and I don't want to go into it before I've finished this story, because I could get to the end and go, oh, they fixed it with this thing, but we'll see. But I do want to say I went and I watched the section where we had Ellie killing the dog, so I finally saw her kill the dog. It took me forever to find that part because I thought it was going to happen around the hospital because all I've seen is the show. So I was like, oh, there's a dog at the hospital in the show. That must be where she kills the dog. So I looked for 2 hours for that. So if there's a piece of information that is not mentioned in this video, and it's probably not mentioned because I didn't see it in the version I'm watching, and you want me to see it, put the link to the video and timestamp for what I need to see in somebody else's video. Like, tell me this is the thing that you need to see. It is in this video at this point, and put that in a comment so that way I can check it out. Yeah, because I don't want to spend 2 hours looking around the hospital for a dog and then only discover, oh wait, actually it was in the aquarium. So I also saw the part where Ellie was walking through the second building at the museum and she was looking at the spray painted messages all over the wall. And I did like that. I felt like it was a mini little adventure, not really adventure, but it was sort of like a mystery that was unfolding for the player. So you would come across all of these messages and then you wouldn't realize, oh, this person is talking about the horrible things that they have done. And then it's revealed the person who they blame for this is the fireflies. Like, I did this because the fireflies told us that it would be worth it. And then you have the firefly symbol with the word liars spray painted underneath it. I thought that was really cool, and it does actually support the idea that the Fireflies were not the most ethical organization. I also saw more of the bit where Ellie went into St. Mary's Hospital and she found what appeared to be an MRI scan of her own brain or something. And there were some notes written that said, wow, this is amazing. Like, we have to extract this fungus from the brain so that we can see how it mutated. So she's basically just finding clues that are revealing specifically what was going on in the surgery room when she was unconscious. Like, they were discovering, oh, she has this fungus in her brain and it has mutated so that it's still there. That's why fungus won't affect her anymore, because it goes, oh, you're already infected. But the thing is that the fungus is not going to drive her mad and, make her lose her ability to have agency. So I liked all of that, and it does help me understand a little bit more of the information we need in order to make a sound discussion or argument regarding Joel's moral conundrum, like what was the right thing to do in the situation that he was in. And then that, of course, has the butterfly effect of affecting every decision that happens in the second half of this story. But again, all right, let's just go. Like, we're done talking about all this. It's just time to jump into it. So we're starting up with Abby. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It's totally free for you. And for me, it might actually bring in some money from all the commercials they put on my videos, which I don't think I have as much control over them as I think I do. I delete all of them except for one every 15 minutes. And I know that they show a lot more than that. So I do my best. I don't want you guys to be bombarded. Otherwise, if you are feeling generous and you have the means, check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or hit the money heart thanks button down below. You can become a subscriber, you can leave a one-time tip, and I really appreciate even $1. Okay, let's go. Sorry if I seem a bit run down or flustered. If you saw my last video, I just dealt with having to get my whole computer wiped because I got hacked. Anyway, it's not fun. Don't open any emails from people you don't already know. So we jump to 4 years earlier, and we've got Abby looking for her dad in the forest, and then she finds him, and they have a very playful relationship, and apparently he runs off all the time into the woods to do who knows what, and she's worried about him, and she's like, you gotta stop doing this. Everybody worries about your safety. And he's like, it's safe. And they're looking for a zebra that's about to give birth. And am I the only one who was like, why does it seem like the dynamic between these two is she's the parent and he's the irresponsible teenager? It's a little odd, but at least it's nice and light and bubbly. It's not this like dour, depressive sort of mood, which is what we've had a lot of in this story so far. This must have been really bizarre to jump from such a serious moment to this. If you were playing the game, you had no idea where the story is going. I mean, even just watching it and not being so physically invested in this, it's a bit jarring, but refreshing at the same time. There's a conversation that mirrors the one that we had with Ellie and Joel earlier, where he's going, hey, I noticed that you and Jesse are hanging out a lot. I see the way that he looks at you and the way you look at him. And Ellie's like, oh my gosh, you're way off base. It's almost the same conversation, except in this case, it's about Abby and Owen. And it turns out they are secretly dating or something, and she just admits it. I think with this, we're just showing that he is very perceptive of what's going on in his daughter's life. At one point in their conversation, when they're talking about whether or not he tricked her into coming out to do like I'm actually gonna show you how to do tracking. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, and he says, or she says, you do what you need to do to get it done. And she's obviously quoting something that he has said to her in the past. Since the one thing I do know from the show is that Abby's father is the surgeon who was going to kill Ellie to get a vaccine, it's obviously a reflection of that mentality, that he's the kind of person who will do whatever it takes to do something that needs to be done, which, if you follow that train of logic, goes all the way back to the end justifies the means, which is a flawed moral logic. But let's see what they're going to do with it. It is a little odd that the dad seems to disregard the danger of the world that he lives in. And this is an issue I had with the HBO show, where we had Ellie and Dina behaving like, this is no big deal, we're gonna go out and kill some infected, yeah. And then they're walking through this town just talking and chatting like it's a girls' trip. It was very odd. It didn't feel like this world was actually dangerous because of how the characters were behaving and how they seemed to perceive the world around them. And I'm getting the same sense from this dad. The daughter acts more responsibly in the world that we're seeing than the dad does. I mean, he's the sort of person who would go off looking for this pregnant zebra and then get jumped by an infected because he wasn't looking out for infected. So although I find him to be a very refreshing character, it is stretching the imagination to think that he would be this irresponsible somebody who always goes out and worries everybody because he's putting himself in danger a lot. I mean, that's basically what we saw of Ellie in the show, where everything that she was doing seemed to be disregarding the fact that even her actions put other people at danger because they would be inclined to go and help her if she found herself in trouble. Anyway, they find the zebra trapped in some barbed wire, and the dad and Abby cannot hold it still enough, and then Owen shows up, and he was looking for the dad and Abby, and he helps. They cut the zebra out, which runs off into another field, and the dad goes chasing after it. Again, it's like he's the child here, and the baby is in the next field. Anyway, that's when Owen reveals that, hey, some girl, that girl you were waiting for, has showed up. She's got a bite mark on her arm. It's old, and obviously she's not infected. They're starting to run tests on her. So we know, I think from this moment, if you're the game player, this would be the big moment of revelation. Ellie's dad's about to die. That is why killing Joel was such a personal issue for her. That's why she was so upset, because he is going to die. I don't think we know yet that he is the surgeon, but from this, we get the idea. He is going to die, and that's what's going to happen. Now, I've noticed revealing the death of a character at the beginning of the story, or a tragedy, and now, saying this story ends tragically, and then you get to the end, and then it happens. For some reason, these stories seem to carry a lot of emotional weight, especially if the story has a lot of moments of joy and adventure and things like that, because then there's this undertone of it will end badly. You feel the looming doom that is coming, and it creates this dimension that otherwise wouldn't be there. If you did not reveal at the beginning that death was coming, then it might just seem like a normal, light, bubbly story. And that's kind of what I'm getting here. So it's weird that I come into this and I knew this information very early on. The dad is going to die, but this he is going to die is not affecting me the way that it typically would in that sort of story. I'm thinking of okay, Romeo and Juliet is a really good example of this, because at the very beginning, in the opening monologue, we are told that two star-crossed lovers will take their lives. And then we see their romance play out, and it ends in tragedy. Now, I'm not feeling the effect that I usually feel in those kinds of stories in this one, and I think it's because I'm struggling to believe that the dad is this wonderful father who is somebody that, he was this benefit to society, because I'm going, you're very irresponsible. I think that this was a poor choice on the part of the writers to make him seem so teenagerly and irresponsible, but I don't know. This is just my instinct. I mean, when I am editing somebody's manuscript, I'll put notes in the margin to just let the writer know how I'm feeling about something as I'm reading it for the first time. And this would be something I would mention here. I'm not getting that undertone of tragedy in his story because I'm so concerned about how irresponsible he is. And that, for me, doesn't seem as sympathetic. Okay, this next scene is weird. What we have is Abby listening in on a conversation between her dad and Marlene, and we can see the brain scans up on the wall. He's now obviously the surgeon who Joel shot in the theater, the operating theater. It's really weird because Marlene is the one who is arguing against the inhumanity of what the surgeon wants to do, whereas if you go back to game one, she seemed to be pretty adamantly behind doing this. I mean, she was willing to kill Joel to protect this. And remember when she said, take him out and, escort Joel away, and if he does anything, kill him. She was serious. We're going to kill this girl because we're going to get the virus out of her. This does not seem to back up what we had in the earlier game. I would have told the writer, no, she should be the one who is in favor of this, and make the dad the one who's like, no, because now also the second half of my problem with this is the dad is dehumanizing Ellie. I mean, unless they're trying to say that the surgeon is like what we say about really talented surgeons, the best surgeons have the worst bedside manner, and it's because they disassociate themselves from the patient as being a human. They don't look at the patient as a human being. It's just a body that they're going to operate on. They're very technical and usually excellent at their job, but they are terrible to these people. But I guess that could be what they're trying to say, but then that does remove the morality of the decision. That's basically saying it's not a human you're operating on, it is just a patient. And that really bugs me because it goes against what we were shown just moments ago. Unless he's just the kind of person who only cares about his daughter. There's some inconsistency in the character they're presenting here. I'm sorry. I'm really glad that Marlene brings up this issue that I had with the moral conundrum in part 1, where people were saying Joel did the wrong thing. So the dad says, how many fireflies have died for less than what we want to do here, which is create a vaccine that will save millions of lives? And Marlene is like, that was their choice. There's a big difference between snatching somebody off the street and killing them and asking them, are you willing to sacrifice your life? And they are opting here, at least we know that they do opt in the end, to just steal Ellie's life away from her without asking permission. And even if Ellie said no, I'd say you guys are obligated, in order to save the world, it is your obligation to take her life anyway. But by not asking her, you're not taking full responsibility for your actions. You get to tell yourself later then, well, Ellie would have wanted to do this. How do you know? You didn't ask her permission. To say that they were morally right to make this decision on Ellie's behalf is to say that it's okay for other people to assume what another person wanted and then force that assumption on them. I don't think that's good. It's weird that Marlene says, are you asking me or are you telling me this is how it's going to be? This seems like we're presenting this moment as though Marlene was forced into this. Like she was against it, but she consents to do it, which is definitely not the way things played out in game 1 with Marlene. This was a woman who was fully on board with what they were doing. Based on this conversation alone, I would have expected that Joel objecting to them killing Ellie would have affected her a lot more in game 1. So if somebody were to hand me this script, I would say, you can't have Marlene acting this way because it undoes what we've already seen her do. Then the dad says, look, everything that we've been fighting for, all the sacrifices, all the horrific, and he doesn't say what he was going to say, but he was going to say horrific things that we have done. He says all of that is justified with this one act, which is a false statement. This logic is very faulty because it's not justified with killing Ellie. It's justified with a vaccine that saves millions of lives, which is still not a guarantee. This is a gamble. The possibility of saving millions of lives is still up in the air. We don't know if what's going to happen will result in that. This is why it would have been so important to ask Ellie's permission, because it's like even more of a possibility that if it was 100% guarantee you're going to save millions of lives, Ellie probably would have been more willing to do it. But now it's like, okay, we might be able to save millions of lives. Ellie, you want to risk your life? Like, you want to sacrifice your life for the chance of that happening? You have a moral obligation to inform your patient of what the results may or may not be. This is very flawed. The dad does not look good in this situation at all. Marlene says, what if this was your daughter? And then, of course, Abby comes in at that moment and he didn't answer. But when he did start talking again, he was still trying to convince Marlene to go do this. So he's implying here that if it was my daughter, I'd totally do it. But Marlene does agree to do this, and he's like, oh, thank you. And then she's like, I'm gonna go tell Joel. And the dad seems shocked at this. Why? Like, why would you go do that? This is really bizarre. Does he not see the patient as human? I mean, I think her assessment of his sense of the patient being inhuman is accurate. At the beginning of this, he said there's no way to remove the specimen, that's the fungus, without killing the host. And Marlene was like horrified that he would just call Ellie, a child, the host. She picked up on how he's dehumanizing the subject. I don't know why people debate what the morality of this situation is. It seems pretty obvious that in order for this to be justified, you have to dehumanize Ellie. But yeah, the fact that the dad could not fathom why they should tell Joel is really bizarre. It just shows the extent of his lacking empathy towards the patient here. He doesn't have empathy for the patient. It's weird. It feels more like a statement is being made about gifted surgeons who do dehumanize their patients than anything else. I mean, that's all I can say. Well, so Marlene leaves and Abby is there with her dad and she's like, don't worry, I think you're doing the right thing. And then she goes, by the way, if it was me, I would want you to do the surgery, which is fine. Like, she could have that and Ellie could have that, but it's about asking first. And then if somebody says no, it's on you, morally, to say, okay, even though you said no, I'm taking your life anyway. Take responsibility for what you choose. This is just a very weird scene. Then we get a brief scene where we see Abby discovering the body of her father. Owen is there and he's trying to prevent her from seeing him, but anyway, she cries. We kind of had that in the show, except we didn't see her actually come upon the body, and I have to admire that and appreciate that in the show, because sometimes the thing that is left unseen is more powerful than the thing that we do see. So I liked that. Then we jump ahead to Abby in the room with Joel right before she deals the finishing blow. You can hear Ellie shouting, no, please don't. But she does it anyway. And then after that, Manny wants to kill Ellie. And Mel is like, yeah, we can't leave loose ends. And then Jordan is like, dude, look what she did to my face. And Owen is protecting Ellie, saying, hey, she and Tommy had nothing, well, he doesn't know their names. So he's like, they had nothing to do with this. If we kill them, then we're as bad as they are. And I like this as a complex situation. They are both right. They would be morally wrong to kill Ellie and Tommy. I think they're morally wrong to kill Joel too. I think this should have gone to court, honestly. But Mel is right also. If we don't tie off all loose ends, if we leave these people here, we're gonna be in trouble. Like, we're gonna be in danger after this. They might come after us, which is exactly what happens. But Abby is the one who says, hey, we're done with this. And that's the end of that scene. I think it was really ambitious to assume that this story could ever be successful in the way I think it's meant to be told, which is that first we're on Ellie's side, and then when we switch over to Abby's, we would be conflicted about it, going, oh wait, Abby's awesome, and you know, they were right too, like they were human beings also. The fact that there was an entire game before this that was just focusing on the humanity of Ellie and Joel is the thing that I think ruins what was attempted here. I stand by my conclusion earlier in this, which is that I think that they should not have told this story about Ellie and Joel. It would have been better to tell it with new characters. Maybe jump over to Europe or Africa or South America or somewhere else where a very similar situation has played out, but it's all new characters. Where now what we do is we start, oh, this is what you could do. You could have a game where at the beginning you choose who to play. Do you play the Ellie character or do you play the Abby character? And then you play it out like that, and then, oh, that would have been so cool. That's totally what they should have done. I think that would have more successfully done what I believe it was attempting to have been done with this. But okay, because of game one, I don't think this was ever going to work. I don't think we're ever going to be able to see Abby's side of the story and be able to sympathize with her. Maybe by the end of this, I'll feel differently about the Abby character, but I don't think so. The problem that I have with this is a lot of people assume that characters in a story should be considered real people, and that's not the way storytelling works. They should behave in a way that is believable, but you can't have characters and assume, oh, well, they do this thing that is irrational, or they do, you know, just because they are alive means that we should consider them a human. That's not how storytelling works. It's definitely a matter for another story, but the thing is nobody's going to come into this and be able to sympathize with Abby on the same level as Ellie, because we know Ellie for the previous game, which was how long? I mean, don't these games take like 10 or 15 hours to play, something like that? That nobody's going to play for 15, 20 hours with one character and go through this big emotional journey with them and then be able to say, oh, well, she was the villain in this situation. I don't know. It's something that has to be discussed further in its own video, so I'm not going to do it anymore here. But anyway, I still really like the idea of a game where from the very beginning, you have no prior knowledge about either character. You get to choose which one, and then depending on which one you pick, that determines which story you play out first. I like that. That's good. We jump into Abby being woken up by Manny, and he's saying, hey, Isaac wants us at the front, so we need to go now. We follow them going to the cafeteria, and along the way, we learned that Manny is a man whore. He has slept with everybody, all the women. That's why Abby was in this library, because Manny wanted to be banging some weather chick, like weather scientist or whatever. In the cafeteria, she comes across Jordan and she has a conversation with him, and I feel like the main point of the conversation was for a bunch of places and names that we've heard before to be dropped. So he's talking about how the school and the hotel, the Saravina, are being evacuated, and the TV station where Leah is, it seems like she's going to be heading back. Like, we know all of these places and these characters, so... But he's upset that they're going to be pulling back. I guess that they've gained some territory, but now they're pulling out, so he's upset about that. And of course, we see that Manny has a dad, and he seems nice. I'm trying to think about this story and how people who have played game 1 and have been through everything at the beginning of game 2, and then they get to this, the things that we're seeing here are seemingly normal. And I think if we didn't have any of the stuff that we had before, we just had this, it would be like, oh, okay, these are just normal people, and, you know, they want to stay safe, and they're making some progress in taking some territory, but they are now pulling out, and they're upset that they've been making all this progress, and now they've lost it, and obviously it was hard work before, so. But so far I haven't seen anything that makes me think these guys are really cool, they're extraordinary. The only person who was shown to be any of these things so far was the dad, the surgeon, and it was just the zebra moment. So we call that zebra moment the save the cat moment. I don't know if you can see it, but I got the book back here. The idea of saving a cat comes from creating a likable character. If you have a hero or a character and maybe he's flawed or a really complex character, but you need your audience or your reader to connect with them and empathize with them or sympathize with them early on. So what do? You have them do something really cool, something really compassionate or kind, like saving a cat. That zebra moment is exactly what that was. And unfortunately, because of everything that happened in the scene immediately after that, in the conversation with Marlene, where he totally dehumanized Ellie, it somewhat undid that. The thing about the idea of having a complex or morally gray character save a cat is that there has to be an awareness of the weight of that act. So let's say you got a guy who's walking down the street and he saves a cat. And we go, aw, what a nice guy. And then we follow this guy around and we discover that he's Hitler. Do we think that that makes him likable because he saved the cat? You need to be aware of the balance. And this, to me, saving the zebra does not balance out dehumanizing a child. So, and here, we haven't seen Abby and these other guys do anything that, for me, equates to, well, now I can look on that moment where they tortured Joel to death and say, they were good people also. That's basically what I'm trying to say with all this. Okay, this is really weird. So now they're gonna go pick up their gear, and it's revealed that Mel is coming with them, and Abby's like, oh great, this is so uncomfortable. She doesn't want to do this. And I'm really glad that it's not about a guy, because I thought that's what it was going to be about at first. But no, apparently Mel has been keeping her distance from everybody or something. It's been weird between her and Abby ever since Jackson. And Manny's explaining that, look, it was just really jarring what we did in Jackson. She's a medic. She's not used to doing that sort of stuff. And I'm glad that Abby points out, well, she kills scars all the time. Like, she's into that, so what's the deal? And Manny says, well, she's a medic. She's not used to exactly the kind of thing like what we did to Joel was not the same as killing scars. So he's dehumanizing the scars, and apparently so is Mel as a medic. All these people are dehumanizing everybody. Again, I'm still not seeing how I'm supposed to sympathize with these characters yet, especially since in this narrative, we saw them do something really horrific before to a character that we liked. Even if we took away the whole, well, this was a character that we liked, if we just walked in on this girl beating a man to death with a golf club after he saved her life, that is a horrific thing to do. And especially to kill him when you can hear who apparently is his daughter or somebody who looks up to him saying, please don't, begging and begging, don't do it. Like that is some serious evil right there. And I know you can say, well, she's not an evil person. That moment, you can judge a person's actions based on a single moment in their life. You absolutely can. This is why we hold people in jail for something that they did in a single moment. And especially in storytelling, you have to be aware that we don't regard stories the same way that we regard real life. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. Keep going. Oh yeah, but it's really weird that Mel likes killing scars and that she was disturbed. No, it's weirder that she's disturbed by what they did in Jackson when she was the one who wanted to kill Ellie and Tommy. What's going on with the consistency here? Something is really off. If I got this script, I would have said, you can't have Mel say that in Jackson. She should be on Owen's side going, I don't think this is a good idea. This is weird. Anyway, I gotta try to get past that because I'm starting to get very annoyed at these little things. Please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It's a free way for you to support the channel, and for me, it might bring in some money from all the commercials they keep putting on my videos. Or if you're feeling super generous, check out my Patreon or Ko-fi. I've got links in the description. Or you can hit the money heart thanks button down below. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, it is kind of funny that we've got Abby finds the weather scientist's bra in their apartment, and this is something that's always bugged me in movies and shows and books. It happens occasionally in books, but finding a bra that a woman left behind. Did she leave without wearing a bra? She showed up with one, but then left without one. It seems pretty obvious to me that this is the sort of thing a guy would write because they don't understand that to not be wearing a bra feels so weird. If you're a person who wears a bra and you show up wearing one and then leave without it, you're gonna feel like you're naked. It's really weird. It would be like showing up with socks and boots on and then leaving with just the boots but not the socks. I don't know how else to equate it to something that guys would understand, but it would be weirder than that even. This is so confusing to me. So Mel shows up and yes, she's pregnant. We can see there's no big puffer jacket to hide it. And there's a little discussion about like, wow, I'm surprised they let you go on active duty. And Mel's like, yeah, I just really don't want to sit around and do nothing. And Abby's like, and Owen's okay with this? And Mel's like, why would it be up to him? If this is Owen's baby, then it would be partly up to him, right? Unless they're broken up now? Is that the awkwardness? I mean, I guess this makes sense if Owen and Mel are not together anymore and Owen wants nothing to do with her or the baby. So, okay, let's just see where it goes. Okay, no, wait, they are still together. This is just odd. So apparently Owen and Mel live together in some section where a bunch of young families and kids live. Like they're moved there because they're about to start a family and have kids. Mel seems less excited about having kids, I guess. I don't know, but that was kind of a bitchy thing to say. Like, why is it up to Owen what I do? Well, you're carrying yours and Owen's baby. So there's that. Anyway, so they go to pick up the dog Alice, and this is, I now get it, the dog that Ellie killed. This is why people wanted me to go and see that scene where Ellie kills a dog. And I'm assuming that folks got to this dog and go, oh no, that's the one that Ellie killed, and it's a sweet doggy. And I mean, I never assumed that just because it was a dog that attacked her, that it wasn't also a sweet doggy. I mean, I live with 3 dogs, and the one that is mine, Sorsha, I've had her for 11 years, since she was a teeny tiny pup. I could fit her inside of a coffee can. Now she's 100 pounds. Most dogs are really sweet, but the thing is it was trying to kill Ellie, so she had to kill it. To me, it seems like that was obviously an attempt to exemplify something that they're doing with the bigger story here, where we show you a creature doing something terrible and you go, oh, that's the enemy, I kill it. And then later you go, oh, it was just a normal dog, just like everybody else. Unless you're trying to say something about the morality of what the act was before, all this is doing is saying, what we want to do is create emotional conflict in the viewer or the reader or the viewer, the game player, whatever. What I, as an editor, would want to do is say, okay, what is the purpose in doing that? I want to see how this serves whatever your purpose in telling this story is. If it's just to create emotional conflict, why do you want that conflict to exist in your reader? Is it because you just want to make them feel uncomfortable, or what is the purpose behind making them feel uncomfortable? Because if you don't have a reason for trying to do this, like you're trying to show a new perspective or something that they wouldn't otherwise have been aware of, then it's doing the same thing that pornography does, which is just arousing an emotional or a physical feeling in whoever is following this story. And that's kind of cheap. But we'll see where this goes, because I can't judge. I'm seeing a lot of things that I'm going, I would be putting a check mark next to this going, I need to come back and look at this after getting to the end of the manuscript, because this might be something that you want to change or add something more to it in order to give it more purpose, more meaningful purpose. The dialogue here doubles down on Mel liking killing scars. So her having conflict with what they did in Jackson to Joel, it still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. If you like apparently f***ing up scars, but you didn't like killing Joel, who killed one of your guys, a whole hospital full of your guys, this is not there's a link missing in the chain of logic here for this character. And this is not the first time we've seen this. There's some weird things going on here in the storytelling. And I don't know, maybe something will come out later to kind of smooth out why it happened like this. Maybe there's an event that happened in Jackson before they left that shows that Mel changed her mind or something. I don't know. It's just odd. There does seem to be a lot of waste happening with these WLFs. We've got Abby and Manny going out and shooting an entire magazine each of bullets. So where are they getting all these bullets from? Who's making them? Where are they getting all of the material to make into bullets? It's just odd. And then also this truck. Like, you're gonna allow 3 people to use an entire truck to go somewhere. Why not give them an ATV? Let the dog run alongside it. It seems like there's again, maybe a lacking awareness of how a science fiction world like this would be. You have to follow certain rules, certain expectations of adhering to the rules of the world, especially in science fiction. That's important when you're telling the story for the immersion. If you take that, oh, whatever. I think I just need to let it go. I like this little saying that people keep repeating to each other, may your survival be long, may your death be swift. That works. During the truck ride, we get a little bit of info about Mel. She and Owen are kind of not talking to each other, but Owen has not been talking to Abby since Jackson, apparently, or at least not for a while anyway. They've been avoiding each other. And then they get ambushed by a bunch of scars on horseback, and I liked this. This was good. So they end up getting a Molotov cocktail thrown at the driver's seat, and so they have to abandon the truck and hike, and they climb into what appears to be a Home Depot. My age must be showing, because they jump into a Home Depot, and all I could think was, oh, brand new washers and dryers? They're there for the picking. Another moment plays out that is almost an exact repeat of what we had with Dina and Ellie in the first half of this game, where Abby gets pinned underneath something and an infected clicker is running towards her, but then the dog comes out and kills the clicker. And it's just like how when Ellie was trapped under a thing and Dina had to stand in and save her from the attacking clicker. So are we supposed to think the same way of the dog as we do about Dina? Nah. A whole bunch of infected have attacked them, and they take out one of those things that, it's not a bloater, but it looks kind of like a bloater, except the head is like fully overgrown, whatever. Anyway, it's exciting. And then they go into the garden section, and we get a little bit about how, I guess, Abby's dad used to have a greenhouse, except everything in it was dead. I would have loved to have seen, just for the aesthetic difference from what we've seen before, just show that there are a bunch of really beautiful flowers that we haven't seen, like not wildflowers, but things that would have only been found in a greenhouse that have now flourished in the absence of man here. Like, this could have been really pretty, but I'm getting superficial. We then get a little bit of that conversation that we had in the show between Isaac and the prisoner that he was torturing, where basically they go, you killed our guys. And he goes, well, I only killed your guys because you killed our guys. And we only killed those guys because those guys killed our other guys. And you get the idea. And at the end of this, we have Abby saying, it wasn't our fault for killing those other guys anyway. You know, they basically asked for it. Essentially, everybody is seeing themselves as being justified in what they're doing, even though you just take another further step back and you see again and again that it's just this ongoing cycle of violence and revenge. So this messaging does feel very much on the forefront, it is kind of in your face. This sort of thing is a lot more effective when it's so subtle you don't even realize it's being fed to you until you get to the end and you go, that. I think I'm pretty early on in this story, and I'm reaching already that stage where the little things are starting to bug me. And it started with the inconsistency in the characters. First we had Marlene, and then we had the dad, and then we had Mel, and I'm going, that annoys me so much that now other things like this are starting to stand out to me as intolerable. And I know I said it at the beginning of my whole critique of The Last of Us, but I'm saying it again here, and that is that at a certain point, you cross the threshold of tolerance, and now little things that you would have just let go before, you can't tolerate them anymore. They start to grate on you to the point you're going, I just can't take any little mistakes anymore. So I'm going to try and force myself to not be bothered by some of these things, but there's enough things in here that are annoying that I would have been telling the writer, dude, did you do your final read through of this? This is what you really want? I don't know. We'll see how this goes. I can't make this judgment this early. Mel and Abby get separated from Manny, and we get this conversation where Abby confronts Mel, hey, why have you been avoiding me? And Mel's like, I haven't. And she's like, I have. Basically, it comes out that Mel is just really disturbed by what happened in Jackson. And at one point, she's like, I just wish I didn't do that. I didn't participate in that. Even though she thinks that Joel deserved what he got, actually deserved worse, she just wishes she wasn't part of it. And then Abby very defensively goes, yeah, because what kind of person would do that? And Mel's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. It does feel like the messaging is attempting to be very, very obvious here. And it is more effective when messaging is so subtle, you don't even know it's being given to you. We get a reminder that Abby is afraid of heights, or gets vertigo at least. And this is reminding me a lot of Ellie's inability to swim in Game 1. And it became a plot point by the end of it. I mean, she ends up getting caught by the fireflies because she almost drowns, and Joel has to, you get the idea. I'm hoping that what we're going to do is see this fear of heights, or this vertigo that she gets when she's up in a high place, that it comes into play in an important way later on in this story. That's my expectation anyway. If you're familiar with Chekhov's gun, that is when in a play you see a gun on the wall. It should go off before the end of the show, or the end of the play. In this case, you get reminded Abby is afraid of heights, and this happened when she was, in Jackson, and she was walking out with Owen to go look at Jackson itself. She was scared of the cliff edge, and then we have it here. So I'm going, all right, they are hammering home pretty strong that Abby's afraid of heights. So I'm expecting this will be a major plot point later on, or something is going to happen that's very important involving heights later on. We do get a reveal that Mel was Abby's dad's student, like best student apparently. So I guess we can say that Mel is able to dehumanize the scars in the same way that Abby's dad dehumanized Ellie. So that's where she learned it. And as they're walking along, Manny says that he wants to, when he gets home, have a drink and watch a movie. And they're like, what movie? And he goes, I don't know, the one about the girl who rides the wolf. Is he talking about Princess Mononoke? Which is a great movie. And it actually thematically fits, I think, what the game is trying to do here, which is look at two sides of a conflict. Like, that's what Princess Mononoke is about. Your main character sees a war from both sides. And anyway, that did a really great job of showing how you can take one side and assume, oh, they're the bad guys, but then when you are with them, you go, wait, they're not really bad guys, and I kind of agree with the stuff they're trying to do. And then you go to the other side and you go, wait a minute, same thing here. So that is a very good execution of maybe what they're trying to do in this game. I don't know, but anyway, I do have to remark that in Princess Mononoke, their save the cat moments were a lot stronger than what I'm seeing in this so far. So if you want to go and study storytelling and creating complex characters that do have a nice save the cat moment, go check those out. I still haven't seen Ellie, Manny, Mel, all these people. I haven't seen them do anything extraordinarily kind or compassionate or whatever. The zebra thing just didn't cut it when it comes to balancing out the evil that they did. But of course, that's also contingent on what happened in Game 1. I'm just noticing that the scars in the game are not without technology. They're not, so in the show, they rejected technology of any kind. But here, they're using rifles and guns. So that seems to be something that they just did for the show. I don't know, to amplify that the scars are disadvantaged. I don't really know. Anyway, there's a shootout at a gas station, and they meet up with some other WLFs and jump into a truck, and they drive off. And we can see that while Mel is looking at some other WLF guy's injured hand, Abby notices that Mel has been shot in the shoulder and she's bleeding a lot. I like that she didn't notice it. That actually happens a lot. You can get shot and not even notice it, but because of the adrenaline and also possibly all the bumping around and bruising that's happening to you, you just don't think that it's any more significant than anything else that you've been feeling, or you just literally don't even notice it. So now they're at the fob and we get a little bit of, well, first of all, it's very busy, lots of people around. Manny is like, I don't trust all these new recruits. And the new recruits come up to them and go, hey, you guys are, you're higher up the chain. What's going on? They're not telling us anything. We've been here for 3 days and we don't know what's up. And Manny's like, oh, don't worry, I'll go check in and find out and then I'll let you know if there's anything happening. It seems clear also from this that the show decided that they were going to elevate Abby's status within these ranks. And it's a good thing that they didn't show us a whole lot of WLFs in the show, because it's still not believable to me that Abby would be his heir unless we see her do something extraordinary. When we have what appear to be much older and more experienced leaders already doing stuff, like whatever. Anyway, but here it would not be believable at all. Like in the game, Abby is not regarded, or does not seem to be regarded, as the heir. She's not the next up-and-coming leader of all of the WLFs, and it certainly wouldn't be believable with all these guys. Plus, the new recruits and everybody, they went up to Manny, not to Abby, which almost puts him more in a position where it seems like, oh, everybody knows they could go and talk to him because he is one of the higher-ups. Like, I guess, okay, they were grouped together, but still, it wouldn't be believable with this many people. Okay, I mean, there are a lot of people in this fob, and then we get, so Mel is doing fine, they're in the medic tent, and they meet up with Nora, who we know from being killed by Ellie in the hospital. She's like, hey, Manny, Abby, can you go help me with something? And so she takes them out, and she's gonna take them to this chill room where there's a ton of bodies in body bags, like tons. Like, where are all these soldiers coming from? This was a huge group. And people aren't noticing all of these dead? Word would have gotten out with this many people dead. It's weird, okay? If I was editing this, I would have said, what you need to do is have those soldiers who come running up to Manny and Abby, they need to be, where is this platoon? They're gone. They're saying that people are dying, something like that. That word would have gotten out by now that this sort of thing's happening if it's this many bodies. Also, Abby says that somebody needs to get word to Owen about Mel being shot because he would want to be there for her. Something's up between Mel and Owen, and it's like they're broken up, but they're about to move in together, and then Mel suddenly is worried about Owen and like, why isn't he talking to me? There's just some inconsistency here. Something must be up. Anyway, so Nora shows them a body, and apparently it's somebody who I'm guessing is related to Mel, because Nora's like, don't tell Mel. I mean, not until Owen is here or somebody is here for her. And she explains that there was some word about scars out by the marina, and so this dead guy, Danny, and Owen were sent out on a sweep, and then a couple of days later, Danny came back with a bullet in the stomach, and he was dying, and the only person he talked to was Isaac. And they do some stuff in the dialogue that kind of reveals that Isaac is withholding information about what happened. He obviously heard something from Danny, and he's not telling anybody about this. But then Isaac decided not to go and send a rescue team out to go and, get Owen, who's still out there somewhere, presumably. And they're not allowed to talk about it. So Abby is saying, I'm gonna go and talk to Isaac, and I'll try to be discreet. I won't let him know that you told me, and I'm gonna find out what's going on. But she's pretty upset that they haven't sent a rescue team out after Owen, and she's hoping that Isaac did secretly. But this is definitely a reflection of that moment earlier in the game where we had Ellie choosing to go to the aquarium instead of going to the marina, which was the place where she was gonna go to rescue Tommy. So we are seeing a lot of repetition of the same kind of story and the same situation. And I'm assuming that we're going to see that Abby is going to make the right choice to go and rescue Owen or go and try to save him or something. That's where I see this going. Abby and Manny go to where Isaac is, and they open the door, and Isaac has been torturing, they don't show any of it, a naked Scar who is tied to a chair or sitting on a chair, whatever. And we don't see any of the torture. They obviously in the show decided to expand that moment and first of all show some of the torture, and then also to have the conversation we had earlier in the game where he killed, those guys killed our guys, so our guys went and killed them, and then they killed our guys because we did that debate. They decided to put that all together in the game, or in the show. I think it was the wrong decision to put that stuff in the show. I did not care at all about anything going on with Isaac in the show. I just didn't care because we had no investment in what the story of the WLFs were on any personal level. All we know is this is the group that killed Joel. So there was for me, it just didn't work that they would do that. I don't know why they would put that there. Why would they put it there instead of waiting until season 3? I don't understand. It was just a time waster for me. I was so bored during every Isaac moment. Almost every WLF moment. I was kind of like, don't care, move on. Like, unless we're going to see these characters immediately after. But now we're going to wait, maybe another 2 years before we find out what happens in part 3? Anyway, so Isaac reveals privately to Abby and Manny that, okay, we've had all these little skirmishes. It's not working. If we do another truce, how long is it going to be before one of them or one of ours, screws it up? So it's got to be going after all of them at once. All I can say is it seems like they didn't write out the terms of a peace treaty between these two the last time. There needs to be a plan for what happens if one of our guys commits an offense against your guys. We have to come together as two separate sides and know, okay, we're going to punish whoever did this in this particular way. And it should be pretty harsh to discourage people from going across. It just seems to me that there was a failure to hash out the details of how this peace is going to exist. You're going to have a truce between two groups of people. You need to figure out, what do we do with people who screw up that peace? And it should be agreed upon by both sides that those people need to be punished harshly. And not by just one side, but by both sides coming together and making this decision. Oh. And finally, we get an explanation for what was the converging storm or whatever. In the show, it was never stated that the reason why they wanted to wait for the storm is because they will use it as cover in their approach on the island. I don't think that was said in the show unless I missed it. So when they were talking about there's a converging storm, I'm going, so what? What's the deal with the storm? But here makes sense. They're gonna use the storm as cover. Okay, I'm glad I got that cleared up. Okay, so Isaac wants Abby to lead a team in the first wave. That's why he called her there. And Abby's like, okay, I want Owen on my team. When do he and Danny get back? And immediately Isaac sees through this and he's like, oh, I'm guessing Nora told you. But Isaac says that he has not sent anybody out after Owen because Owen is the one who shot Danny. And apparently it was to protect some scar. And Abby is like, that's bullshit. That's not Owen. But Isaac points out that why would Danny use his dying breath to tell me a lie? Manny points out we can't tell anybody about this because if somebody finds out that Owen was protecting a scar and killed the WLF for that, they'll kill Owen, which is right. Abby wants to go and rescue Owen, but Isaac shuts that down and then makes her promise that she will just look at her roster and prepare for this thing. And he promises her, if Owen turns up, I will give him the benefit of the doubt and hear him out, find out what the hell happened. But we need you to focus right now on this attack. And Abby agrees. Sort of. After Isaac has left, Manny is sitting there going, there's no way that Owen killed Danny over some scar. And then he realizes Abby has absolutely no intention of following orders. She is going after Owen. Now, this is the first time in the story so far that I'm actually invested in what's going on here, because up until now, it's just been, you need to go to this place because you've got orders to be followed. Go over to this place. But now we get to this place and we find out that something is about to happen, some big offense. They're going to go attack the scars. And Owen, who is a character who we saw earlier defending Ellie, so we have this sense of he's got the right moral judgment on certain situations. Even though it wasn't the smart thing to do, it was morally the right thing to do. He does deserve to be saved, especially if we heard he killed this guy to save a scar. That's an interesting and intriguing situation. I want to know more about it. So I want to go and find Owen and find out what the hell happened. An hour into, at least according to the thing I'm watching, I'm sure it was a lot longer in the gameplay, but I know people like to just explore and stuff like that in gameplay. As a storyteller, I would say this is a better it's get to this moment as quickly as possible. Get to the we need to go and save Owen as quickly as possible, because this is the first moment where we have an emotional or psychological investment in seeing our characters go forward. But yeah, so Abby says, I know where Owen will go. And she looks out the window and sees the Ferris wheel. So it's the aquarium, obviously. And she wants to just quickly go and do it and be back before morning or whatever. Anyway, so that's what the plan is going to be. Then we go into a flashback where we see that Abby and Owen are on the Ferris wheel. I don't know how they got up there if Abby is so afraid of heights, but she's terrified now. Owen is teasing her and like, come on, come and look over the edge and sit here with me. And then he ends up climbing up onto the edge of it because she doesn't want to miss training. She's like, no, I don't want to do this. And I want to just go back. And anyway, he says, I always loved you, and then jumps off. And then Abby jumps after him, and she seems slightly reluctant at first, but goes. I mean, not a whole lot was focused on the reluctance, but she put her fear behind her and went anyway. I think that's what we're supposed to get out of this moment, is that even though heights is the thing she's most terrified of, she did it for Owen. She overcame that fear for Owen. I was a little worried when she jumped in that water, almost right where Owen jumped in. Like, I didn't see where he was. Anyway. You don't want to jump right on top of him, then you kill him. Owen definitely reminds me of Abby's dad a lot. Like, almost identical personality. He even has the same haircut, looks just like him. But he is being a little bit of an a-hole and just thinking about himself and teasing Abby. Anybody who thinks that it's sexy or romantic to tease somebody about something that they're afraid of or that is genuinely dangerous hasn't been the one that's being teased before. It's not a good feeling, and it never ends good. I know it's just a video game, but I am going to point out that they are swimming now with like heavy backpacks, probably full of ammo and supplies and boots. I had an issue with this in the show, and I have an issue with it now, but I'm nitpicking. Okay, so Owen says to follow me. I want to show you this thing that I found. And then they get in there, and it's obviously the aquarium. And he says, you want to keep exploring? Yeah, let's go. Or she says that. Anyway, they go, and he's going, oh, I think this is one of those zoos, but for fish. I would have paused here and told the writer, when he said, I found this cool place, did he mean just now? I mean, he jumped off of the Ferris wheel and swam off and found this place and then came back and said, hey, Abby, come follow me. I want to show you this thing I just found. Or has he been here before? If he's been here before, why did he find this cool place but then not explore it more than just, poking his head in? I don't know. I'm getting really nitpicky. They find this beautiful sailboat. It is like the sailboat of my dreams. And there's some kids' clothes in it and some kids' drawings. And they're talking about, hey, this must be a family that used to live here or something. And Owen's wondering if maybe they joined the wolves, and Abby is saying maybe they joined the scars. And I think we're supposed to be setting up an optimist-pessimist kind of dynamic here, which is definitely what we had with Abby and her dad earlier. They're looking around and exploring, and they decide this is a cool place. There's an aquarium on the floor, and they're imagining what it would have been like when there were people who were just coming here and visiting as tourists. This does feel a lot like exploring the museum that we had in the beginning of this game. They find a dead body in a chair holding a note, and the note basically says that this is a father, and there was a mom who was killed by some soldiers, WLFs, and there were two kids. And this is a letter from the older kid saying, I'm taking Max and we're joining the Scars. I don't want Max to be around here and see a coward who doesn't do anything when mom is killed. That's the sentiment that's expressed here. This is a little lighter on the obviousness of what's going on, but it's like somebody is expressing that you not getting revenge for something that was wrong that was done to you is making me angry, so I'm going to leave you and go be part of the Scars. Again, this is showcasing what appears to be the big theme here, which is if somebody kills you, don't go and kill the other person. I mean, we just keep seeing this over and over and over again here. And this is actually how you do explore a theme. I want to know if there's more to it than there's, killing is bad, which I've heard a lot of that in my comments, that is the main point of this story, is killing is bad, revenge is bad, which yes, that's true. And that's a fine story to tell. It's not the most sophisticated messaging, but it's fine. I mean, it is what it is. I think a more sophisticated exploration of this theme would be to present it as, if you don't go and kill the people who are coming after you, then you yourself are going to die, and then what's the point? I think there are definitely more complex aspects to this issue that can be explored, and I don't know if they're going to do it here, but I think Mel was touching on something when she said we can't leave loose ends, because what happened? Ellie came back and she's killing everybody, and so is Tommy. I like how in the show there was the one guy who stood up in the middle of the town council and was saying, if you don't go and get justice for what happened to Joel, then you'll deserve it if they come back, because you will have taught them, when you come and do bad stuff to us, we don't defend ourselves, we don't retaliate, we don't do anything. It seems like if you're focusing on getting revenge is not the right choice, that is the first obvious result to come from this situation, is to say, okay, revenge is not good because it perpetuates this never-ending cycle of violence. But what happens if you were to take that simple idea and say, okay, then what would happen if you don't do that? That's basically looking at the more complex issues with this idea. I think so when people say that they're frustrated with a theme being revenge is bad, is a frustration with something that does have a very high quality storytelling aspects to it. I mean, this is beautiful production, took a lot of work, and especially after season 1, the emotional roller coaster that was, game 1, I think people would have a high expectation that they're going to really challenge people's ideas in here. And if you come out of it just saying, so the point was revenge is bad, it's a bit dissatisfying. It goes, it's not a bad theme, it's just dissatisfying after what the expectation was coming into this. And we get more of it where Abby is frustrated, saying, I don't understand why anybody would join the Scars, they're fanatical cult. And Owen is saying, why would you think that? And, we as Fireflies were killing Fedra guys, we were killing people at checkpoints and whatnot. And Abby says, we were naive in thinking that the Fireflies were going to be able to, do what they said that they were going to hopefully do. We weren't fanatical, whatever. Either way, it's again pushing this idea that I think I'm right. That gives me the right to do horrible things like get revenge. It's just limiting. It's, if you're going to stop with revenge is bad and say that's it, it does ignore what happens if you don't do that. And I think a more mature way to look at this would be to say, it's hard to say which one is the right choice, getting revenge or not getting revenge, because revenge, if there is justice behind it, if it is a just revenge, well, there's what happens if you don't do it. Justice isn't served, for one, and two, you set yourself up as a target. I do have to applaud the show for bringing that angle into it, because that is a more complex examination of this theme. But again, I don't know how much further this goes in the game. We'll see. Oh, she finds a letter from a Scar, clearly written to the older sibling, that's a very manipulative letter. This is definitely something that a predator would do to a child. Oh, you're so honorable to, be loyal to your dad, but man, he's weak, and how that's bad for your little brother. Anyway, it says that they'll come back for this kid in a couple of days, and if you want to come with us, light a torch and we'll come pick you up. These are not the good guys. They go into what is labeled as Max's place, and this kid has colored and painted all over the walls and stuff. And I'm reminded a lot of what they did in the show with Henry and Sam, where Sam was constantly coloring and drawing on the walls. I wonder if that's where they got the idea to do that for Sam in the show, is from this. They come into a really cool room that is a dome, and this is a real place in the Seattle Aquarium, and they see a seal with spots on it, or it's a sea lion, and they were talking about this earlier. Anyway, and it's this very magical little moment, and they both go in for a kiss, but then Abby clearly stops feeling it and backs out of it, and Owen's like, what's going on? And then we get Abby. I'm sure I have mixed those two names up throughout this entire critique, but Abby she reveals that she's thinking about Joel. She goes, I know that all the leads have probably dried up, but he's still out there. Owen is clearly tired of this old issue, and this is where we see, okay, things have started to turn sour between them. This is why they're not together, and instead Owen is with Mel later on. What we're seeing here is that Abby's desire for revenge is souring this wonderful, beautiful little magical moment, this positive relationship that she has with Owen. And Abby wants to go back for training. She says that they can still make it if they go right now, but Owen says, I'm just gonna stay here and hang out with the seal for a little bit longer. And Abby says, I'm sorry, but Owen says, I told you, you don't need to say you're sorry. But Abby leaves anyway. And you can see that Owen's definitely disappointed. I don't know what else I'm supposed to get from this, except that here was this beautiful magical thing and it was spoiled by Abby being unable to let go of wanting revenge. Seems pretty obvious. I'm gonna go ahead and end the critique right there. And we'll do part 6 next. This is a little frustrating for me because all of the broken moments that I saw with character consistency, and they were very tiny, and they could be changed and tweaked so easily. I didn't see anything to reveal why Mel would be in favor of killing Ellie and Joel, or not Joel, Tommy, but disturbed by killing Joel. And then she loves effing up scars, but she's not used to being brutal like a grunt. It's just a little off there. And then with the dad, and then with Marlene, that set me off definitely in this path of frustration. And I'm trying to set it aside, but now I'm looking at what people have told me is the theme of this game in the comments, saying this is about revenge is bad, and it's as simple as that. That's kind of a universally known truth. If it's just as simple as that, I understand the frustration. I understand that there is a desire for a more complex examination of an issue like this, but it's not a bad thing to explore. It's just maybe disappointing that we had this wonderful, complex issue that was explored in season 1 or game 1, and then it's just as simple as revenge is bad in this second bit. But anyway, I can't really comment further on it because I don't know how this story ends, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, that's it. Please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It's a free way to support this channel. Or if you're feeling generous, check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or hit the money heart thanks button down below. You can become a subscriber. You can leave a one-time tip. Anything is much appreciated. That's it. Be good to yourself.